Cha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we begin by offering our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, and also unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalita Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Maharaj, unto our exalted Rupanuga Guru Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay, so didn't start recording right away, but I do our obeisance. We did it. So in just about 8-9 days, the last month of Kartik begins, month of Damodar, and with that the beginning, commencement of the Sri Braj Mandala Parikrama in Vrindavan. And so, because of that, I want to read from the Braj Mandal Parikrama book, compiled by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, a rather extraordinary book, actually. And, whoops, where did it go? Oh, there it is. And in order to understand it, how it was made, what it's based on, because there's so much in it that will be new to so many listeners, most listeners, you have to know its origins and the authority upon which it rests, right? So, I'm going to read from the introduction and the preface of the book, and then we'll go and take selections of the book for the next month or so. So the introduction was compiled by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj himself, written by him, and he explains, this was done first in Hindi, so this is a translation of his Hindi edition, and then it was translated into English and subsequently published. So he begins, in 1946, I took shelter of the lotus feet of my most worshipful spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Sri Srimad Bhakti Pragyan Kesha Goswami Maharaj. Listeners may know him as the dear godbrother and sannyas guru of our Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And Srila Narayana Maharaj was the head of the Mat in Mathura when Srila Prabhupada moved to Vrindavan. He stayed there for some time. And they associated quite a bit together when Srila Prabhupada was in Mathura, and then when he moved to Vrindavan to Radha Damodar temple. So, very close relationship. So from that time, by his causeless mercy, I received the good fortune to travel with him. On many occasions, I was highly blessed to perform Parikrama and have darshan of sacred places, the tirthas, throughout all of India. We visited places such as Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's birthplace, the Mayapur Jogpit, the islands of Sri Dham Navadvip, pastime places and other sacred places of Gaudamandala, Vaidyanath, Devagar, Mandara, Madhusudan, Gaya, Kashi, Prayag, Ayodhya, Naimisharanya, the places of Srimad Mahaprabhu visited in South India, Dwarka, and other places of pilgrimage of West India, Ajanta Ellora of Central India, the sacred places of Rajasthan, such as Jaipur and Ajmer, and all the pastime places of Braj Mandala. Furthermore, after Srila Gurudev left this world to enter his unmanifest pastimes, I was fortunate enough to again visit and perform Parikrama of these sacred pastime places several times under the guidance of the Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada started this in the modern day in Vrindavan in the early 1930s, I think. I know they did Navadvip earlier than that in the 20s. And they encountered some obstruction from the local pundits and mahants of the different mats because Srila Saraswati Prabhupada spoke very strongly against certain apasiddhantas and misconceptions that were prevalent at that time. But nevertheless, over time, he won them over, not everyone, but the leaders of the principal mats of the Goswamis, right, they were won over. And so he was doing Braj Mandal Parikrama, and then when Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj established his mission, the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, they began doing the Braj Mandal Parikrama there as well, right? So Srila Gurudev mentions then having been with Srila Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj and traveling throughout all of India to different pastime places, but specifically the parikrams in Navadvip and in Vrindavan, under the banner of the Sri Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, the institution established by Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj, and actually co-founded. One of the original trustee signers was our Srila Prabhupada. They were so close. Above all, however, I received the great opportunity of performing Braj Mandal Parikrama on foot each year with my most worshipful Holy Master and some 500 faithful devotees. Sri Gurudev entrusted the responsibility of serving Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat to me in 1954. That's when they acquired that property. And they're still at that same place, although now it's been recently renovated under the direction of Sri Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. And I haven't seen it yet, but apparently it's quite beautiful. Since then, I have annually been performing Braj Mandal Parikrama with the brahmacharis of Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat and some of the many devout and respectable residents of Mathura. Thus, I have been fortunate to have performed Braj Mandal Parikrama more than 50 times in over 50 years. After the disappearance of Srila Gurudev, I gave lectures during Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama on the pastime places and their glories. So having heard over and over from his Gurudev about the glories of Braj, about the glories of these different pastime places, our Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, he continued that. And everything in here, you're going to find out, is based on what he's heard from his Gurudev and other very advanced Brajbasi Vaishnavas, and from authoritative literatures coming down from our Goswamis. So he continued that, speaking. A short compilation of these lectures was published in English a few years ago in a book entitled Sri Braj Mandala Parikrama. This book was highly regarded by faithful persons in India and abroad, and all copies quickly sold. Time and again, devotees from all parts of the world asked for it to be reprinted, and with yet more pastime places to cover the entire Braj Mandala. I could not ignore their requests and attempted to fulfill their desire. But then I left India and began traveling around the world to countries big and small to preach pure bhakti as taught and practiced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That would have been 1996. First going to Holland, and then England, and then across to the United States, and then everywhere. Following in the footsteps of our Srila Prabhupada, intentionally stopping and visiting and paying respects to the places that Srila Prabhupada had been and touched. This was his intention, to honor those places and to honor the disciples of Srila Prabhupada who were continuing his mission, and to enthuse them with further instruction and to reinvigorate the bhakti of many who had become discouraged after Srila Prabhupada left, and also to laugh. Those were his 4 reasons. So, traveling all over the world, right? And also, he says, I was writing other books on bhakti at that time and was suffering recurrent poor health, so I could not complete the task. After returning from preaching abroad in July 1999, I wanted to finally finish the book, but once again was obstructed by sudden ill health. Oh, and just a side note, all of those lectures that he gave while traveling around the world have been gradually being compiled in a series of books. Every lecture that was recorded has been transcribed, and in each place, year after year, these books have been made under the guidance of Vaishnavas from Sri Radhakunj, specifically Premananda Prabhu, and that's being carried on. How far are we up to now? 2002? 3?
Almost done with 2003.
Almost done with 2003. But the farther we go, the more the lectures are, because the recording became more and more complete, right?
Guru spoke less. He started speaking less.
Any rate, so under these circumstances, so now 1999, and he wanted to finish the book. But he was experiencing ill health, quite an obstacle. Under these circumstances, I decided to present myself at the lotus feet of Sriman Mahaprabhu Satchinandana Gohari in the Gambhira, at the lotus feet of Sri Haridas Thakur at Sitabakul, and at the lotus feet of Sri Gadadhar Pandit, the potency of Sriman Mahaprabhu at Tota Gopinath in Sri Jagannath Puri. So this is the methodology for great devotees who want to complete an extraordinary task. They go to the places of Mahaprabhu, of his great associates, and pray for their mercy. So he went and saw Mahaprabhu at the Gambhira, where he spent he spent 24 years in Puri. 6 of that was traveling around South India and India, so 18 years. And as those years went by, more and more time in that Gambhira, experiencing the deep internal moods of separation of Srimati Radhika. And at the same time was Gadadhar Pandit there at Tota Gopinath, and he went and sought the blessings of Gadadhar Pandit, who is the potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srimati Radhika herself, and nothing could be done without the blessings of Radhika, and Sri Haridas Thakur, Namacharya, the teacher of the chanting of the holy name in the Kali Yuga, the very embodiment of chanting. So asking blessings from these 3 personalities to be able to complete this extraordinary work despite the obstacles he was experiencing. So, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj says that I resolved to complete this work there only by their mercy. I stayed in Puri Dham for some time, and on Vishwarup Mahotsava, the 25th of September 1999, completed Braj Mandala Parikrama. So he completed it in time to go to Vrindavan again for Parikrama, because he's in Puri now, and then in another month, the Vrindavan Parikrama was there. I have based this book on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Ratnakara by Sri Narahari Chakravarti, Braj Bhakti Vilas by Sri Narayan Bhatta, and especially Braj Mandala Darshan, compiled by Sri Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj of Kusum Sarovara. Oh. He met him back in the 50s, or maybe early 60s. I'm not sure exactly when this happened, but there was some contention in the Mat in Mathura. Some of the devotees were making it difficult for Srila Narayana Maharaj to execute his duties, and finally, out of frustration, he left that place for some time and went to Govardhan to do Parikrama and deep, deep bhajan. Of course, this is a Leela. The Lord will present situations and obstacles to create circumstances by which we may be removed from one place for another purpose, right? And so he went to Govardhan and had very many extraordinary transcendental experiences there, confidential experiences. And he spent some time at Kusum Sarovara, not in the front, that where we generally go, but behind in the back, there's a place where devotees stay. And he had wonderful exchanges with this devotee there, and with others, and they recounted this in years later to the devotees, followers of Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. So, I have also collected various references to different pastimes from Govinda Lilamrita by Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Krishna Bhavanamrita, composed by Vraja Rasik Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and the various works of the Goswamis. In this regard, I remember my spiritual master, Paramaraja Ashto Tarashata Sri Srimad Bhakti Bhigan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, by whose mercy I received everything on the subject of Braj Mandal Parikrama and the many pastime places in Braj. I have strung these recollections together with references to the pastime places from the various literary works. Before meeting my holy master and receiving his causeless mercy, my life was void. So this is a very amazing way how he compiled this book. On the one hand, he compiled it from personal experience, personal revelation, also from hearing over and over from his own Guru Maharaj about these pastime places, which is also based on what Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj had heard from his own Gurudev, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, and what he had accumulated from his own study of the various references. And then Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, also deep, deep scholar, having studied deeply these various works that he has quoted, Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Ratnakara, Braja Bhakti Vilas, Braj Mandal Darshan, Govinda Lilamrita, Krishna Bhavanamrita, and the sources and the authors of these. So all of this is based on the statements of scripture, sadhu, and guru, right? So none of this is simply made up or just from the internal realizations of Srila Narayana Maharaj himself. Everything has been received, even his internal realizations have been received by the mercy and power of his Guru Maharaj, Haridas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the collected Vaishnavas who are the authors of these extraordinary works. So when we begin to read from this book, we should know that all of this has been collected and compiled with the greatest authority. And so he ends the introduction by saying, begging for a particle of mercy of Sri Guru, Sri Bhaktivedanta Narayan, he said, by begging for a particle of mercy of Sri Guru, he signs it Sri Bhaktivedanta Narayan. And this was finished Sri Sharada Purnima the disappearance day of Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj, written on October 2000. So he wrote the introduction on the first day of Kartik month in 2000, right? So, very extraordinary. Now, there's an introduction written by the devotee who collected who was overseeing the Hindi translation into English and was overseeing the development of this book into English. It's quite an extraordinary book. I wonder if we have a copy here. Do we have a copy here? See it anywhere? Yeah.
That's somewhere.
All right. So her name is Shanti. I think she's from Holland originally. She lived in Vrindavan for a long time, traveled with Gurudev around the world some, but spent most of her time in Vrindavan at Gopinath Bhavan translating. She learned Hindi, learned Sanskrit, very amazing devotee, very talented. Before that, she'd been in ISKCON, had been a Gurukul teacher. So she writes a brief preface explaining the book and who helped. For those sincere devotees who deeply desire to enter into the sweetness of Sri Vraj Dham, this book is a cause of great joy. It takes the faithful reader on an extraordinary journey through Braj, following the same general route taken annually on Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama. Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama was inaugurated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada reestablished it in October 1932, and his dearmost disciple, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Keshav Goswami Maharaj, sustained it in the decades that followed. According to your line, you're always going to see who's the dearmost disciple, right? So she's saying Bhaktivedanta Keshav Maharaj. We would say, oh, our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he was certainly the dearmost disciple. Others will say, oh, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he of volcanic energy, he was certainly the dearmost disciple. And so many others, right? There's no harm in this. This is the sentiments, right? Our beloved spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, has been guiding pilgrims on this parikrama since 1954, thus fulfilling the inner heart's desire of all the acharyas in our line. The Western world was first introduced to Braj Mandal Parikrama by the causeless mercy of Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, who founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in July 1966 and spread the teachings of Sriman Mahaprabhu to every corner of the globe. For more than 20 years, Western devotees have been helped to gain a further appreciation of Sri Braj Dham by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, who emphasizes the value of trying to deeply enter Srila Rupa Goswami's teachings on bhakti. This English translation of Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama is another of the priceless gems that he is giving to the English-speaking world. This volume is basically a direct translation of the Hindi edition, with some slight changes to the order of the material, mostly to provide greater continuity. We were guided in our efforts by our dear Gurudev, as well as by Sri Mad Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj, Sriman Pundarik Das Brahmachari, and Sriman Madhav Priya Das Brahmachari. Right? They were working with a lot of the translation, very expert. So, this rendition of Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama is not meant as a catalog of information or data. Rather, it is meant to stir the heart of the faithful and inquisitive readers, inspiring them to understand more deeply the sweet Braj pastimes of the divine couple, Sri Radha Krishna, having directly heard them spoken from the lips of a pure Vaishnava. Now she's going to give thanks to all the devotees that helped in this, and these were many of the devotees who, from very early on, were at least from the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, had come to the shelter of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, and were assisting very early in the publication, because our Srila Gurudev always wanted these books published as much and as rapidly as possible. Right? Just like our Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada before him, and many of the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada all understood that the writing, translating, and making available the literature and knowledge coming from the, originally from the six Goswamis, from Damodar Goswami, Sri Ramananda Roy, Mahaprabhu himself, this is the means of spreading this mission throughout the world. Without the philosophical examination, it's not possible to go very deep into bhakti. You'd be easily misled to misconceptions, inappropriate practices, lack of guided faith. These literatures are so important. And if you want to understand that, you just look at the way that the Jaiva Dharma is narrated, explaining the path taken by different kinds of devotees, and ultimately, of course, by Brajanath and Vijay Kumar, both great scholars who are being carefully guided in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam and other literatures by their gurus, Raghunath Das Goswami and Gopal Guru. So, she says, I am grateful to Janaki Dasi for translating Sri Braj Mandal Parikrama into English. Janaki, she's at Radha Kunj now, she's still there. She's from Belgium, maybe? Holland? One of those places. Oh, wait, no. This is the Janaki from Bombay. Yeah, that's another Janaki. She used to be a teacher also. I think she was a Gurukul teacher in Bombay. Okay. I think she still lives in Gopinath Bhavan. She was assisted by Manjulali Dasi and Gaur Haridas. I believe that Manjulali is that Sanskrit scholar from Bombay. Very amazing lady, Indian lady. PhD. I don't know who Gaur Haridas is. Vajayanti Mala Dasi and Sundar Gopal Das edited the text. Okay, those are very old and dear friends, and helped in various ways to bring this book to print. The manuscript was proofread by Vichitra Dasi, Manjari Dasi, and many others. All these devotees still around. Krishna Karunya Das, Brahmachari, who is now, what's his sannyas name? Krishna Karunya Maharaj did the layout, been doing the layout for years. Photographs for the book are courtesy of Hemant Kumar, Kaliyadamana Das, and Sarada Dasi. Kaliyadamana was working with Kirtapad on the very first, when the Rays of the Harmonist first came out, in a very, in the late 90s, with very primitive computer facilities and everything, they were doing it. Sarada Dasi is his wife. She's from Italy, expert photographer. Rupa Raghunath Das Brahmachari, Bhakta Charles, and others. I think that Rupa Raghunath, does he live in Seattle or Vancouver? Rupa Raghunath?
There is a Rupa Raghunath, but I don't know if it's the same one.
Which one do you know?
The one in Vancouver?
Yeah, I think it might be him. I'm not sure. I would also like to extend my thanks to Nandi Kishore Das, who's Sri Dandi Maharaj, Purandara Das Brahmachari, who's, I believe he's the Shringa Maharaj, Srimati Uma Didi, Vrindavan Vilasini, dear God sister, Sudarshan Das, Kishore Krishna Das. Oh, Kishore Krishna Das, he was with publishing. He left his body around 2004. Very nice. Atul Krishna Das lives in Alachua now. Old god brother of mine was on my Radha Damodar bus when he was 16 years old. Srinivas Das, don't know him for their valuable help. Yeah, Atul Krishna's brilliant scholar.
He speaks. Yeah, I've heard him on Gurudev's lectures.
Yeah. I also want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the devotees in the Mathura Math under the guidance of Sriman Premananda Das Brahmachari, who are always supporting the Western devotees by providing Harikatha, Prasad, lodging, and their hospitality in general. Finally, I want to thank Radhakanta Das, Ratikala Dasi, my old boss. I worked for him for a few years at his company. I've known him a long time. And Ramakanta Das, whose generous, he's from England, Ramakanta, financial contributions made this production possible. I humbly beg our readers to overlook any imperfections they might find within this book. Anything that is pleasing and that touches the heart is the result of the mercy of our spiritual master, and any errors are due to my own inadequacies, aspiring to serve Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, Shanti, Dasi. So when was this done? Oh, here's all the list of all these personalities. Old Sundar Gopal was helping way back then. Oh my God, now there's so many beautiful pictures. I wish I could show them somehow. But let's see, let me just look real quick to the copyright dates and all, when this originally published. Where's that page? Okay, first edition was 2001, right? And that was a smaller book, very nice, condensed. 2,000 copies. The second edition, which we have here, we have both 2007. Okay, so only a year after the original one was published, they managed to do a full English one. Quite wonderful. All right, so I think we will just stop here and continue tomorrow. I'm not sure, I'll have to look and see how I want to do this, but I want to start giving background to Braj Mandal Parikrama, which this book does, so reading excerpts from the book in order to prepare us, and then when Braj Mandal Parikrama does start, we'll go day by day and speak on the places that the different parties are going to. Okay, so all glories to our Divine Master, Srila Prabhupada, whom I, in 1976, went to Vrindavan for the first time, and we did Parikrama, some. Not extensively, not like we're doing now, but he introduced that. When he first went, he took devotees to himself personally to many more places. When I went, there were hundreds and hundreds of devotees, and so his senior devotees who knew a little bit took us around, right? But it wasn't until going to the Parikrama, I think I went first time, 1997, under the direction of Srila Gurudev, and he was going to all the places. And it was so intense all day long. We had 3 buses, and I think Gurudev would drive in a car mostly. And we went to all these places, one after another. And there were a few hundred Western devotees. It was quite amazing, although I was just overwhelmed with the experience. It was only later that I can remember having gone there and reflecting back about the things that were planted. The nature of Parikrama is that it plants remarkable samskaras in the heart, like seeds. And It may take some time for them to ripen, but they don't leave. And there's extraordinary benefit from that, which we'll hear about more and more as time goes on. Okay, so we'll stop here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, all glories to the assembled devotees. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.